161 million people get comfort and relief from this service every year. So, why are we so hesitant to use this? You're going to find out. Today, we're going to talk with Mr. Heath Bartness, the CEO of St. Croix Hospice, about why hospice care is actually the opposite of giving up. Stay tuned. Give us a minute to hear from our sponsors.
This incredible show made possible by our wonderful sponsors: Assured Senior Living, love, it's what we do, and Serenity Engage, where care connects. Now, a brief message from Serenity Engage. Serenity connects aging service providers, older adults, and their loved ones in a single network. Our web, mobile, and smart assistance products power the network that enables real-time, HIPAA-compliant communication, collaboration, and education. When we care together, providers increase revenue and lower expenses, older adults receive better care, and family has greater peace of mind.
All right, it is time that we bust some myths here. And today we are talking about hospice and why we have the idea that it means giving up.
Yeah, we experience this a lot in the industry. People saying, if I put my mom on hospice care, that means I'm assuming my mom's life is over. So we're very excited to be speaking with Mr. Heath Bartness. And let me just give you a little bit of his background before we dive into this. So Heath served on Iowa's Secretary for the Senate Business and Labor Committee, where he participated in bipartisan health insurance work group. He's also been a nursing home administrator, and it was there that really led him to found a hospice company of his own, and that is St. Croix Hospice. And they serve over 3,000 patients in the Midwest. So with that, we have Heath on?
Yes, we do.
So Heath, I met you in the early days of COVID, and so it's great to see you again. Thanks so much for coming on our show.
Oh, Catherine Francis, great to be here. I'm beyond excited and humbled to be on Mavericks of Senior Living.
Well, we have a lot to talk about, so let's dive in.
We do. Let's just kind of start with the big one. I think we've all noticed some changes. What have you noticed that's changed in the last 3 years with hospice?
Well, I mean, it's not like there was anything too significant that happened globally to impact the entire healthcare system, right? But it's been wild, right? It's been a wild ride. Staffing scarcity and different complexities regarding supply chain to get supplies that are needed in place, and so that certainly has been a challenge. But the care and commitment that those that are in senior healthcare in general certainly hasn't changed. If anything, I think it's even been enhanced because of what we all went through together.
It's an interesting take too, that we all kind of went through a traumatic time together. So it brings people together to be more creative, to be more empathetic, to work together more, to find solutions together.
It does. And can we dive in? Because my mom has gone back and forth, when we start talking about hospice, this end of life. Does it mean giving up? I mean, what are you seeing from your professional side of this idea of these families and these patients are like, oh, well, I feel like I'm just giving up?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, it's a scary, dark term to a lot of people. And I don't think that we in healthcare, nor we just in hospice in general, have done a great job educating the community about what this amazing benefit is. I mean, this is a benefit that is intended to be for someone if they have a life expectancy that a physician says, given the disease's normal progression, is 6 months or less, yet most folks are on hospice for 30 to 40 days. I mean, it's greatly underutilized, and it's a benefit that pays for medications and supplies and medical equipment, all related to terminal diagnosis, let alone the fact that we have clinicians that come to the patient wherever they are, in their home, in a nursing home, in assisted living, in a hospital, under a bridge, wherever it may be, to provide that one-on-one care and touch. And so it's a tremendous benefit. But Francis, you're spot on. There's such, I think, this fear factor. Yet hospice itself, as it was derived, is from a Latin term that means hospitality. And so from our perspective,
I didn't know that.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. Something new every day, right?
Yes.
That's really what we're able to do, right? I mean, we're not doing anything that's going to provide a curative impact to the patient, but to keep a patient comfortable, to allow that patient to go to a grandson, granddaughter's graduation, wedding, to go to the lake home one last time, to go look at the mountains again. That's the ability that we have to help these patients live life to the fullest. We all have a limited time on this earth, and we know that. Sometimes it just takes that term to kind of get us to that realization that our time is limited. But I'll tell you guys, we have patients that have been in hospice, for over that 6-month period of time. In fact, there's patients that can graduate from the hospice program. That means that they're no longer eligible for hospice, meaning that a physician determines that their terminal diagnosis has a greater than 6-month life expectancy. Now, look, that I'm not trying to tell you that happens all the time, but it certainly does happen.
It does. And I was telling you pre-show, when my mom went on hospice, it was very, very hard. And one of the things that somebody said to me is, you can actually graduate from hospice. It does not mean this is a death sentence. And to me, even though I knew she was in the last days of her life, it still meant something to me that this is a journey that we're going to be able to get through this, and that during this time, there's going to be some comfort and some relief, not only for me, for the rest of my family, my brothers, my dad, my mom. And that's what meant the most to me.
And I just am blown away, though, by hospice in Latin. I think Latin, correct? Is it right? Heath, yeah. Latin means hospitality. I mean, I'm sitting here just completely just thinking through that. I'm like, you're right. The way that the teams can offer that comfort, that support, it is this true experience for the family and for that resident or person or older adult, whoever's being served, that I haven't thought about it in that way until you said right there that kind of origin of the word. I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah, and hospitality is so important because it is about the experience, isn't it? It's not about entertainment. It's about the experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is always an interesting one. 3,000 patients is an incredible amount of people. How do you work with your teams? How do you lead your teams to help respond and work with families and the staff to make sure the care is being provided for them?
Yeah, well, look, it obviously starts by hiring great people that have that commitment to care. I often tell my staff, if you're here because you want to try something new, or you're kind of just sick and tired of kind of the drama at your other job, and that's why you decide to make a move, hospice is not going to be for you. You have to have that burning kind of desire in your belly to be with someone when they take that last breath of their life. You have to really be able to comprehend the fact that you're joining someone in this journey, and this indeed is their final journey. And to be able to appreciate and accept that, and to really be empowered, quite honestly, by that. We've got amazing team members at St. Croix Hospice that go above and beyond day in and day out. Some of those above and beyond moments get recognized. We've had a couple of amazing viral stories. When there's a wedding that took place with a World War II veteran, and boy, I got calls from the Washington Post. We were in one of the largest newspapers in the UK and France and Spain, and I told them, the Washington Post, when they called me, I said, this is amazing, yes, but these things happen 10 other times a day, and none of these things get the media and recognition that you're hearing about. And it might just be someone sitting on a couch for an extra 20 minutes holding someone's hand, or watching a Hallmark movie during the holiday season, right? So having the team is really the key component to it. But I have a lot of engagement with my group. I still call every new hire the first 3-4 weeks of their employment. Welcome them to the team, and certainly share with them some of the expectations, and simply that what I just said, which is, if you're here for the right reason, you are going to be a hospice person for life. If this isn't what you're here for, then it's probably not going to work out.
I love that, and so I have a follow-up question on that. Yeah. What is your turnover rate like? Well,
we've fortunately been kind of under the national average. We're probably around 27-28% right now, which is certainly higher than what any of us would ever want to be. as
Really
you all know,
impressive.
in senior healthcare, boy, the first nursing home that I ran, I think my target was 100% turnover. I mean, we had staffing agencies in, we just couldn't keep staff. Now, again, hospice is a bit different because our clinicians in particular, they're not in a specific building for a specific time, right? I mean, they're not running a 6 to 3:30 shift. Their time and their ability to make the visits is quite flexible based on whatever the patient needs are. So we have some clinicians that might start their day at 6 o'clock in the morning or earlier, and other clinicians might not start their day till 10, 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, it all depends upon the patient's needs.
Yeah, and part of the reason that I was curious about your turnover rate, which is low right now, that is a low turnover rate in this industry. So let's make sure that is really clear. Francis and I often talk about the turnover issues in this industry and how some of them are related to how are we managing people? How are we actually treating them? And just the fact that you still call, you have a lot of employees, Heath. You still pick up the phone and you call them in their first few weeks. That's
powerful.
So powerful. And it seems like such a small thing, but I want to share with our audience the importance of that, because everything starts at the top. It is about leadership, and what leadership is doing is what filters down. And I think it's something that is often missed when we're in crisis, when everybody's under stress. It's the first thing that gets forgotten.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, that's one of the best things I've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
So.
I'll tell you guys, it's a highlight of my week. I make the calls on Thursday afternoon. So yesterday I called 32 new employees. Now, I usually get a hold of about a third of them. The other third, 2/3, I have to leave a voicemail for. But when I hear from them that this is the best job that they've had, or I hear from them that this is what they've been looking for, or I hear from them that things haven't started out so great, right? It at least gives us an opportunity to celebrate those wins, but also to address any pitfalls that we may have, right? We've invested the time and effort to get them convinced that we're the place that they should want to work at. It's really our job to make sure that we're fulfilling our end of the deal as well. So again, I just love to hear it. It fills my bucket for sure. And it's something that no matter what our size is, I fully anticipate doing it until they kick me out of this role.
That's awesome.
That's great. And the reason that is important to our audience is because as we talk about the hesitancy to take on hospice care for someone that you love, it's important to know that the people who are providing the care are fully committed to what they're doing. They love their job, and they're not distracted with other things. Hospice care for me, for both of my parents, was the best choice we could have possibly made for them. And my thought always was, why didn't we do this sooner? Mm-hmm. Why didn't we do it earlier when it was first brought up to us?
I've had more families, we work predominantly with memory care is our big focus. And more families like, I wish I would have done this when you guys recommended to begin with. And I think that's what my hope is, that people at least take away from a little bit of discussion is hearing your passion, that the leaders at the top, it's a value add for those that are aging or those that are on their final transition, right? And so I think I really appreciate your authenticity, and just your passion to serve is phenomenal.
Well, and look, I think that our position when it relates to the memory care and whatnot is we can be such a great complement to the amazing care that you have. Your nursing assistants, your nurses will know your residents that happen to be hospice patients far better than we will. And so we have extra knowledge. There's extra professional staff that are licensed staff, right? That really can help guide us in building that plan of care to ensure that we can execute and maximize in the absolute best way, the best experience for that patient, the best experience for that family, the best experience for the other caregivers, right, as well as the best experience for their teammates, right? I mean, it's a full circle with 4 really key components. And the great thing about hospice is hospice doesn't focus solely on the physical being. Hospice is designed to not only focus on the physical being, but also the psychosocial being and the spiritual being. And boy, when we get those 3 working in tandem with that amazing relationship with facility-based care and whatnot, it is like playing with dynamite. I mean, things just really happen.
Yeah, I that's so well said. I think that's so powerful. And What do you, this is kind of going to be a kind of a little bit of a weird off the wall question. What has surprised you about running an organization that is kind of navigating such an emotional time where people are, like you said, diagnosed with 6 months or less to live? You have family dynamics. What are some of the surprises that you've seen throughout your journey?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of things that I could say, but I'll be honest with you. The one key thing that came to my mind immediately is actually a personal experience I had. So I ran nursing homes for 4 years prior to starting St. Croix Hospice, and I had an amazing experience. I loved everything about it except for the frozen water pipes and the water temps that I couldn't keep up to the levels they needed to be. And then doing this as hospice now since 2008, I really see myself as I'm a pro, right? I know how death and dying works. I've been present when the funeral home comes to help assist with transporting a body. I've been the person that's called the family members when someone's passed away. I've been in the room when the last breath was taken, countless times. But I'll tell you what really is impactful with the question you asked is, my grandfather was a member of our hospice services earlier this year. And my family and I, we live about 2.5 hours north of where he lived and where he was being taken care of. And on the way down, my wife and I, we have 4 children, and 6, 8, 11, 13. And so we're talking about how this is probably going to be the last time you're going to see old Papa. And kind of on the way down, we're having that discussion. We get there, we're ready to go in, and my two boys had a really unique relationship with my grandfather. I couldn't get them to go. I knew I couldn't push them. I knew I couldn't demand that they go. And whatever I talked to them on the way down about, my wife and I both, we couldn't get them just to be comfortable to go in. And I felt like an absolute failure, right? I'm the pro. I know how to do this, right? And so what surprised me is, even though we're in this field, even though we're part of something like this, if our music therapist wasn't in the room at the time, able to set the tone and able to communicate in a way that I clearly couldn't do with my own children, to help get my 2 boys to come in and to say goodbye to old Papa, I don't know if they would have had the experience they had. And so it was very positive. It was emotional, right? Again, I felt like a failure. I was thankful that this happened. But in retrospect, we all can use this help, right? Like, when it's personal, right? It was just a different situation, different scenario, and no different than what both Catherine and Francis shared with me prior to the show. The experiences that you've had, right? You're pros. You know what's happening, right? You've been there, you've done it. But when it's personal, it's always good to have a guide. It's good to have a little help. And that's kind of how I look at hospice as well. And probably even from a more global perspective is, we're kind of like the guide navigating these troubled waters. Sometimes it's a smooth ride. Sometimes it gets a little bit bumpy. And out there out west, you have raging rivers.
Not right now, they're dry.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's another problem, right? But I think that's where hospice can really be that guide along that river.
I love that story. I don't even know how to. That is just an awesome story. But it reminds me of when my grandfather passed. He never left the hospital. He had Parkinson's and really bad fall. Stubborn as stubborn can be, and didn't want to use anything. And a fall that eventually ended up causing his passing. They did surgery and things, but the team. It takes a team to really navigate that final experience. And I think having that, we had music therapy there as well too, as he took his final breaths. But it just goes to show that, you can be one person, but when you bring that care circle around, that's really a powerful and emotional and an impactful experience for the journey of the family, the loved ones, and that person themselves.
Yeah, and I thought you were going to tell stories on your mom, because his mom wouldn't listen to him when he was giving her advice about hospice and
just care in general.
Care in general, yeah. And we've had her on the show lots of times talking about it. So
she finally did, and she's been her best decision. But
it's always hindsight.
It took 11 years for me to work my mom.
So. And that's what we're talking about, right? It's hindsight after you've accepted the care, the extra layer of care of hospice, that you maybe would have liked to have done it sooner. So we're really hoping to share the word with people so that they understand that this is not the end.
Right.
And, given this industry and all the changes that have happened, and it has changed dramatically in the last 3 years because of COVID and other things, what do you see happening in the next 3 to 5 years? What challenges do you see, and what things are you doing?
Well, it's been interesting because, we saw this significant shift of where seniors were going, or what kind of health care they were receiving, whether they were going to, communal living environments, independent living, apartments, all the things that are available, especially in the climates that we live in. Having seniors out shoveling snow, it's certainly not a positive experience for them, right? And so, even that, I think, moving to a different setting can almost be a step towards the hospice or something like that in someone's mind, that we're giving up. We can no longer do the things we used to do. And boy, what I've seen in these care facilities and senior housing, it's like college. When can I move in? I'm ready to go. I want to be back doing this stuff. And we're making macaroni art that looks like, Super Bowl players. This is amazing, right? It's great. Happy hour. You guys have happy hour. It's really cool. Yeah. But where do I think things are going? Look, we know that we're only starting to take care of the most senior of the baby boomers, but primarily we're taking care of the baby boomers' parents. And so they're getting educated and they're understanding. And the baby boomers, they can be demanding, which is great because it makes all of us better. They understand what hospice is and what we can offer, what we should be offering. And so I think that 3 to 5 years may be a bit more short-sighted than how I'm sharing my experience right now in terms of what I'm thinking. But look, this is only going to continue to be an area of healthcare that continues to be, I think, positively viewed both on, from a patient perspective, but also from a governmental perspective, right? Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't matter. They all really support hospice. And I think it would probably be a really poor decision if any of them came out and said, stop the hospice benefit. We're not going to pay for, these seniors to have the care that they need. So I think I'm very optimistic, I guess, about things. I just hope that we can have opportunities like we have today to share with folks that hospice is not this scary dark term. Hospice is not a place. Hospice does not mean that, boy, everyone needs to come home because tomorrow old Papa might not be here. Hospice is a journey, and that journey is designed to be 6 months. It could be far longer. And unfortunately, though, it's shorter. And Catherine, your comment about we wish we chose hospice sooner, I'll tell you, in the history of hospice, no one has ever said we wish we had chose hospice later. It's never been said.
Good point.
Great point. Yeah.
It's simply what hospice is required to pay for, and to be able to manage some of the stresses and burden that families have about perhaps the planning needs and resolving issues. You talked about Life Legacy or something, a program you guys do. Those are amazing things. And too often we think after the fact, exactly what you were saying, wish we would have done that. Why didn't we think about that? Where we can really be impactful alongside, in particular, folks like yourselves that can really say, all right, let's go through this journey together, and let's really complement and work together to figure out, what the best route in the river we need to take is.
It's so important what you just said, Heath, and just kind of tying that back to something you said earlier too about it's the psychosocial. It's not just the physical. It's the spiritual being. It's all of that, and it's really hard to describe until you've seen it or experienced it somehow. I don't know how our family would have made it through hospice, that period of time, without a hospice team's support, because we did have siblings who thought a different thing when it came to a certain point. And so we had to, figure out how to work through that. And the education that was available by the hospice social worker was just immense, and it made all the difference. I love what you said. In the history of time, nobody has said,
Yeah.
I wish we would have done it later. And while this is a very difficult topic, it is it's a sensitive topic. I shouldn't say difficult because frankly, we think we should be talking about end of life a lot more than we do.
Right.
I
Well,
think
and Francis just shared over COVID, right? You and your wife had another child, and think about the planning that you made for that life altering experience, right? And getting the bedroom set up and the crib and buying all the stuff you had to buy and packing the bags and plenty of ice cream, hopefully for your wife, and all the things you have to do. And then here we sit with end of life, and it's just like almost hitting a brick wall, right? There's no planning, there's no coordination. There isn't necessarily that communication that's taking place to say, where are all of our legal documents? What accounts do we have? Things like that in the grand scheme of things are nominal, but things nevertheless that should be had, that communication, right? Let alone, how do you want to die?
Yep.
Where do you want to be? Do you want to stay at home? Is it important for you to have someone else see you, or is there anything you want to do or experience? And those are things that we only get one chance to do this. And look, as a hospice provider, we know we can't fail. Like, there's no do-overs in hospice. We have one chance to give this patient and family a positive end of life experience, and we just simply cannot fail.
he's not speechless very
No,
often.
but I didn't.
Wow.
I've never thought about that we cannot fail. Right, we have the one chance, because I just think that says a lot about your ethos right there. Is that's the mentality, is that we have one go around for this successful opportunity for this care. And I love what you're saying. Is I've been a big believer. We do a really good job of welcoming people into the world. We do a very below par, poor job of welcoming people out of this world. And I think that has to change, so everything comes full circle, that the same experience that we have when we welcome someone, we have a similar experience when we welcome someone onto their next journey, whatever that may be.
Totally agree.
So let me remind our audience too, if you are in a place where hospice care is something that you're looking at for someone that you love, you do have a choice in hospice care. Look around, talk to the different hospice providers,
Right.
and learn about them. Learn how many times they're going to come visit, who their team is, ask how they're going to, approach the care. If you have trouble with siblings thinking differently, you have a choice, and it is funded by Medicare. So look around. There are a lot of hospice providers. Pay attention to who you choose, because it really matters in those last stage of life.
And I will say, connect with them on how they communicate and how you want to communicate. Because I think that is one thing that is so important here, is communication, because of the emotion, because of everything that can be going on, that you need to feel comfortable and know their ethos, their model, their belief on how they're going to share information with you and your team, with you and your family from their team, so that everybody has a successful and, a gracious time while hospice is serving.
Yeah. So those are our action items. What would you say to our audience, Heath? What would you like our audience to do after hearing this?
Well, look, I think exactly what you said. Learn about this amazing benefit and accept, the opportunity, if presented, to volunteer for a hospice program, to see really what's being done. Hospice is one of the few licensed, governmental funded entities that requires volunteer services. So every hospice is required to have volunteers that can go participate in a number of things. They can do things, with a patient or not with a patient, but to help support the overall purview of what hospice is. So I think that's a significant life-altering experience, because you can see how hospice really works, and you can engage with the caregivers and whatnot with a program. So that'd probably be my number one.
I love it.
I love it. That
it.
is
That's
fantastic.
Great. Well, Heath, thank you so much for joining us today. We had such a great time talking with you that we took a little extra time. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I am so honored and humbled to be with you, and looking forward to perhaps a second iteration. Maybe I'll get invited back.
All right, you got it.
You got it.
Yes,
We would
sir.
love to follow up with you and see how things have shifted after this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. And now
the work that you do, because your passion and your leadership is some of the best that we've seen and heard. And so we salute you on all that and the organization that you've built and continue to build. So yes, thank you.
So while this is our myth busting series, we also have a bright spot series, and you are a bright spot in the industry.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate that.
Yes. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks,
and
everyone.
We are definitely busted this myth. There is no doubt about it that hospice is not giving up. It is, like Keith said and Catherine, taking advantage of a wonderful service that can help your loved one navigate their next steps in life, whether it's 6 months or longer. It needs to be 6 months or shorter, but this myth is no way hospice giving up in any capacity.
Busted. All right, so we are going to move to Impact Headlines.
Impact Headlines.
Mavericks take. So Francis is going to have a Mavericks moment here. And do you remember last time I had the little egg timer?
Not so good, Clyde. I think I can work this one, though.
I went and bought, I think these are for homeschooling kids, which my kids are too old to homeschool now. So I'm giving you 2 minutes. Go.
2 minutes. All right. So this is from McKnight's Long-Term Care News. It's really resonating with me. Fatal contraction or flexible adaptation. Can we flex the LTC sector or long-term care sector? Wow.
Question.
It goes into some scary numbers here. Disappearing nursing homes where, in 2018 through 2021, we saw 306 close. In 2022, we are on track for 150 to close.
What?
In 1 year. This is what kind of freaked me out when I read this. And a combination of things are happening. It's occupancy issue, it's staffing issues, it was COVID, it was so many things in the workforce. So the shrink of the workforce, we're going to go back to that again, but I kind of go back to, we need to understand what is our purpose of our skilled nursings. I mean, and part of me feels we're using them as our catch-all, so are we overworking that system because we're lacking somewhere else, or we haven't created a model yet that meets the new need? And nursing homes are just like, oh, we have to be the backstop, right? We have to take everybody discharged from the hospital. We have to do these things that are adding extra stress and burden onto the staff, the organizations. Maybe the other residents don't mix as well because they need a new model. I don't know.
So is there an element of, I know there's discussion around higher acuity and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So people moving into independent living have been living at home longer and moving into independent living later. So they have a few more needs. And then assisted living is getting to be more like memory care and memory care.
I think it's part of it without a doubt, but I don't know.
So what do we do about it?
I think we need to go back to, I think one thing they're saying here is the flexibility in the industry, right? Is how do we shift and blend this? And our timer did not go off again.
It didn't bing, but it stopped. It stopped.
So my action of this is be mindful of what we're going to do from staffing. Let's get creative on our solutions here. It's not just a skilled nursing issue. It is an aging services issue.
It is.
And so with that, I'm going to flip it over to Catherine's Maverick moment, and let's see if I can do a better job of making sure.
With the clock. I'm sorry, my non-millennial but non-Gen X.
I'm a weird one.
Do better. He's the weird one. It's so. Can you put up the one thing? So I'm going to talk about a word called depaysement, and it is an untranslatable French word that you'll live at least once. So to me, that's really interesting. First of all, I've been brushing up on my French for no reason whatsoever. I just love it. And I ran across this word, and the fact that it was untranslatable was really interesting. And if you Google it, there's a lot of translations. It's really that feeling of disorientation that occurs when you are in unfamiliar surroundings or a sense of displacement. And so you get rid of that. Now, the idea, and it comes up a lot. It's used a lot when you're traveling, when you're going to another country and you have that sense of, I don't know where I am. I'm a little bit disoriented. I don't have anything familiar. And as I was looking at that word, I started thinking, my goodness, this is what our older adults feel when they move in to a senior living.
Yeah.
Because we talk about how they lose some of their independence. My dad felt like he had everything taken away from him, right? The car keys had been taken away. His wife, who had Alzheimer's,
Was in a different spot, right?
Different spot. Was in the same community.
No, but like not the same room though, right?
Memory care, yep. Yeah. And he was in assisted living, and I moved him from Colorado Springs to Denver. So like away from all his friends. And it started to get me thinking about, you know, we can use this for empowering and moving through something and growing, or we can use it as, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to shut down and go into my little comfort zone. And you see this in senior living a lot. You see the people who hang out in their room and they don't want to leave their room. And
that happens a lot.
That's my dad.
Happens a ton.
And it's hard. But then you see the other ones who are Julie Cruise director, who are out there socializing with everybody. Did I just lose it? I lost my 2 minutes. So I just want to leave you with the word depaysement. That feeling of disorientation, and just use it for empathy, use it for empowerment and growth in your own life. And
I like that though.
Yeah.
So no, it's, I think
that's my other French word.
Voila. I think that's awesome, because if you think about it, the more we can understand and maybe have a sense of that empathy, it only makes us think through, how do we actually want that experience to be?
Yeah, for ourselves too, which is another reason to plan, another reason to think about hospice care. How do we want our end of life to look?
So speaking of planning, we've been doing some planning here for, I think, September 26th and 27th, 2023. So what are we planning?
We are planning the next collaboration in aging. If you attended the first one ever that happened this year in February, hopefully you're hearing this and you're excited that we have set the date, we have set the location, September 26th and 27th in Denver, Colorado. And we are doing it even better than we did it the first time around. So this is our second annual event, and this is a national event. This is all about bringing together the entire senior care continuum to work together, because we believe that there are a lot of issues around the siloed nature of the industry. And when you talk to people in the industry, nobody wants to be in these silos. Nobody wants to be in the silos. Hospice wants to work better with the senior care staff, senior living staff. Senior living wants to understand more about what home health is doing. Everybody really wants to be working together and collaborating. So that's what we're all about. It is action-packed. It is bringing things that are not like any other conference that you've been to.
So check out collaborationaging.com. It has all the information. Dates are on there. We're going to be getting a lot of information out in the next 30 to 45 days for pre-sales of tickets. Now is going to be the time to really get your best discounts, some special pricing that we're going to be doing as well too. So stay tuned, and I promise you, what you think a conference is, this is not going to be anything like it. So if you want something different, you got to check us out, because in the end, until we start rattling a few kind of cages a little bit, we don't know what's going to happen.
That's right. That's how you create change.
That's right.
You bust through. So join us next week as we talk to our friend, Jill Vitale, who is the CEO of Christian Living Communities.
Yes.
And we have another myth to bust for you. So we're really excited about that. So don't forget, join us next Friday. I think it's at 10 o'clock.
10 Mountain Time, though. 10 Mountain, noon Eastern, because we have to move it up 1 hour. But it's going to be a very powerful show with Jill, who, as Catherine said, is the CEO of Christian Living Communities. Until next time, pay it forward, go out, take action, and make sure you come back and you tell us what you did, and maybe even a little bit of a why, so that we can begin to empower and inspire other people.